Hi, I'm Allie Lasky. I write sports romance with mental health and disability wrap, and today we're going to be talking about Instigator, Book 6 in the Boston Grizzlies Hockey Club series.
Welcome to Love Letters and Books, a podcast for anyone who loves a good story. This is a soft space to explore romance and books where no topic is too taboo. I'm your host, Casey, and this week I am sitting down with author Allie Lasky. We're touching on so many topics in this episode, including but not limited to Allie's latest book, Instigator in the Boston Grizzlies series. We're also talking about ADHD, caretaking in relationships, and online friendships turned romance. Allie, welcome back to the Love Letters and Books podcast. I am so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
The last time you joined us, we had such a beautiful talk about your book, Defenseless. It was the first book of yours I'd ever read. I completely fell in love with your voice as a writer. But one of the things I said in that interview was that you had me hooked on a character in that book. And I said I couldn't wait for his book to come out. You were like, oh, that's like my next book. Don't worry about it. So I am so glad that you have come back today to talk about Aiden and the book Instigator, because I am just so excited for his story. So once again, thank you for joining me. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. This is so much fun. I love this.
Good. Well, for anyone who is coming into this podcast episode and maybe didn't hear the last one, I just want to briefly touch on some of the things that I really enjoyed in your writing. I feel like one of the things I said, and it's probably going to embarrass you, but I almost felt like your writing sort of like reset my nervous system. It felt very much like a calm exhale, but also a beautiful romance, really mature. I love the dialogue. I love the characters. So I'm excited that we're going deeper into this world, into a character who we have been introduced to, but we really don't know his inner world. So as a reader, I'm just really excited. I feel like you're one of those like auto-buy writers for me, if that makes sense. I have like a few people on my list. I'm like, oh, I love their voice. I know I'll love their next book. So have I made you blush yet? No, I'm just kidding.
Yes. I'm all flattery.
Good. Well, I mean, that's how I feel. And I'm really excited we get to talk about this character today and, you know, the FMC in the book. It's definitely a different direction from Defenseless. So I kind of want to give you the floor to give us an overview of Instigator. What can we expect when we step into this book?
So Instigator is a book that I've been dreaming about since at least June 2024. I had this image in my head of this one scene that it's so perfect. And I finally wrote it, and it was I loved it. It was worth waiting almost a year and a half. But I've been dreaming about this book for a long time. I knew that Aiden is kind of grumpy and kind of misunderstood, and I didn't know until I was on chapter 2, his first chapter, and he told me he was autistic, and I didn't know that. And the first book in the series, Fuck Me Twice, opens up with an autistic male character, and he says that McGregor, Aiden, is the only one he's confided in. And that kind of, it's stuck in my brain all these years without really me thinking about it. But the reason why Sven was able to confide in Aiden is because they sense like with like. So when Aiden told me he was autistic, I knew there was more to his story than I had thought. In Defenseless, we learned that his and Haley's parents pass away when he is fairly young. He's in college. His sister just turned 18. And it completely shattered his world, and it completely turned his life on its head. He had to completely change his course. And he spent his whole life since then being a caretaker for his sister, who has chronic illnesses. And he is the caretaker of the team. He is the team captain now. He takes care of everyone around him, but nobody takes care of him. And then we have Ssie Ramos, who she's fabulous. She's a billionaire tech genius who invented a computer chip and turned the world on its head and made tons of money, but she is unfulfilled. And she didn't know till a couple years ago she has ADHD, and she self-medicated for years and coped in her own way, and it was destructive for her, and she couldn't recognize that at the time. She just made do with what she had available. So she has been diagnosed, she has been treated, she is going through treatment, and she has coping mechanisms and skills now that she didn't have in the past, but she's still floundering. She's part of the Boston Grizzlies Foundation. She works on a helmet sensor initiative with the character of Game Misconduct, Bex, and they're working for a greater good for a very worthwhile project, but she's still unfulfilled. And her dynamic of she's put a name to it, she's put a label on it, but it's not magically cured. She still struggles with it. And having that one is officially diagnosed, one is not, one has better coping mechanisms than the other. They work together and separately to find what they're looking for and what they're needing.
Oh my gosh, we have so much to
Mhm.
unpack in what you
Oh,
said. I
yeah.
I think we need to jump in there for a second. So, let's take a look at the first part with Aiden because I think that that's a really relatable situation you've set him up in, where you have
Mhm.
been the caregiver, the caretaker, and yes, Haley is very self-sufficient. Like she's built her own life, but you're the protective brother and you realize that your parents are gone and you have to step in. And then that role extends to the rest of your life is really what you're sharing. But when you're in that role, what don't you get to focus on? And you're kind of mentioning he's the caretaker, but like no one's taking care of him. And with that, I always think it's interesting how we don't almost have the skills to receive when we've been giving so much. And that's always a little bit of a growing pain. Even if eventually it feels really good, it's not automatic. And I think a lot of people reading can probably see themselves in that dynamic if they've been the caregiver, the one who's like pouring all the time, than to start receiving. So I kind of love that you've set him up in that way because when, defenseless ends, it sort of turns his world on its head, right? Like
Mhm.
he felt like, oh, this is my best friend, this is my sister, I'm in this dynamic, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, they have their own thing going on. So what's my thing?
And
Right?
he's
It's so
outside.
relatable.
Yes.
Yeah, he's outside of it, right? Who's the one who's been so integral. I'm really excited for his journey in that because I feel like through stories, sometimes we're offered the opportunity to take ourselves on that journey. Like if you see yourself as that person who's got to take care of everything, sometimes it's really nice to be able to step into a story, not experience the consequences, but kind of see what that would be like to receive because
Yeah.
it's awkward, right? Like it's awkward when you take on that role.
Yeah. I'm the classic eldest child, eldest daughter. I struggle to receive help. I am the caretaker. I'm the enabler. I'm the one trying to mend everyone. So I really put a lot of that into Aiden. And but yeah, I am an oldest sibling. That's what it is. But part of that means I take care of everyone. And with Aiden, he takes care of not only his sister, not only Ryan, but also his team. He has a whole found family of teammates that he takes care of. And as captain, it's his job to lead them and to be that open ear when they need it. And in this book, one of his teammates does need him. He takes care of his teammate in a way that not everyone is able to receive that sort of help in real life. So I want to make sure that the character gets the help he needs.
Oh, that's really powerful. And again, that sort of aligns with what I'm saying about like that's what stories offer us. And then if
Mhm.
you're open to it, I would love to pick your brain because I was resonating as you were saying, I'm the eldest sibling and things like that. No one could see, but I was raising my hand of like, I am as well. But what do you think it says about us when we spend our lives being the character? Like, how do we identify? What traits do we think it highlights about us? If you can kind of go inward for a moment. And I know you are not Aiden, but for anyone listening who experiences this as well, what does it say about us when we are the caretaker?
It's a high level of responsibility. And it's that overly inflamed, for lack of better words, sense of responsibility. It's like a bruise that you keep poking at because, yes, sometimes it's sort of have to be the responsible one to have to be the caretaker. but also the more you poke at it, the stronger it gets. And it's one of those things where it's very easy to become resentful. And I don't want to be all toxic about positivity, but sometimes you need a little bit of positivity to kind of balance everything out without tipping into the toxicity of it. In a functional family, the caretaker and the one who is taken care of balance each other out and they both contribute equally, or at least somewhat equally. And in Instigator and Defenseless, they have a fairly equitable balance. He feels that overly active sense of responsibility, but his sister Haley is not pushing him or asking for or requiring of it. This is his sense of self and his sense of purpose. And she accepts his help, she accepts his taking care, but she is fine on her own. She's entirely capable with some accommodations, and he's able to accommodate her.
It's interesting in that dynamic because you've mentioned a few of the layered things, right? The resentment, the positivity, all of those things. And then one lesson I've learned over the years is even in that role, stepping back and allowing people to experience their consequences and their accomplishments, because you can very easily rob people of those by constantly stepping in or having sort of that inflamed sense of, oh, this is on me. And sometimes we don't realize we're almost like getting in the way because we're all supposed to evolve and grow. So it is a really interesting dynamic to look at, especially at the stage of life he's in when you're thinking about, oh, what am I doing with my life? And where am I going next? And what about my relationships as you're seeing everyone else sort of partner up around you? It kind of makes you reflect of like, oh, okay.
And to add to that, Aiden has some very strong relationship trauma, romantic relationship trauma, that he has to work through. And it is not a one stop fix, it is not an easy fix. And it's kind of held him back for the last 8 years. It's kept him frozen and paralyzed. And now he's finally able to start working through it. But for so long, he put himself on the back burner. And partly was because of his own trauma, and partly was because he had to step up and be the caretaker. And now that he is no longer taking care, now that he is able to concentrate on himself, he has to take a good look in the mirror and decide if he likes who he is and if he likes where his life is. I think a lot of people don't do that sort of introspection, and
Yeah.
the people who do don't always take steps to correct it. It's easy to stay stagnant and not make changes to your life.
I guess I want to pick your brain again
Hmm.
about this. Like, if someone's listening and they're hearing what we're saying and it's kind of sparking something in them about, like, oh, maybe that's me. What would you say to someone listening who's sort of at that crossroads, feeling like, oh, I think I do need to make a change, but I feel kind of stuck? Is there any lesson that you've learned that you've been able to apply?
About a year and a half ago, I had a major health crisis. It was a moment of clarity for me, and I moved all the way across the country. Left my family, left my hometown, left all of that for a place I had been before, but only very briefly. Completely upended my world and started over. And I needed that, and I'm thriving now. It's been just over a year and a half, and I am thriving personally, professionally. Like, it was the best thing I could have done. I didn't realize how much I'd been held back until I was set free. So make that radical change. Cut your hair, but don't get bangs. Don't get bangs, but cut your hair. Try on that red lipstick. Find a new job. Dump your useless boyfriend. Whatever it is, make that radical change. Be prepared to accept the consequences. Be prepared to not like it or to be uncomfortable with it for a while. Sit with it and then decide how to move forward. But it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to not be happy all the time as long as you are making steps towards self improvement. It's not always comfortable, it's not always easy, but sometimes it's the hard things that teach us the most.
Oh, I appreciate you sharing all of that. And, no one can see. I'm just nodding in the background furiously, thinking, oh, well, this is what I needed to hear at 23 and 33 and 36. And that's why I love having these conversations because it's almost like there's an assumption that we have all of this knowledge within us and it hasn't been blocked by anything. Like, yes, I do think we have some wisdom within us, but I think that the messages around us can sometimes dull that. And we need to be reminded of that. And you brought up a really interesting point about discomfort. And it's interesting when you look at it and you check in with yourself and ask, like, how often am I responding to discomfort and reacting as if it's pain or
Mhm.
reacting as if something happened versus, "Oh, it's a transformation."
Yeah.
And it's really important to take a moment to reflect on that and say, "Oh, what part of the overreaction is me, and how often am I stepping back from moments that would allow me to grow?" And aren't the growing pains, and I say pains in quotes, but, like, the
Mhm.
growing pains, aren't they kind of natural? And wouldn't it be a little strange if I was stretching and developing and I wasn't feeling any kind of discomfort or ache? So I do love that we're talking about this today because, I mean, any opportunity to shine a light on that, I think is really helpful. Like, whoever's listening today who wanted to hear, a book about hockey is also hearing all of this, and I think that that's really important. And so now I'd love to pivot to our FMC.
Ssie is a billionaire tech genius. She's fabulous. She shows up to book club in a red velvet gown, ball gown, and she's used to people wanting her for her money or what she can do for her, and not actually appreciating her for who she is. She is 43. She's divorced. She's in perimenopause, and she acts out because that's how she gets attention. She thinks she has to act a certain way. That's how she gets people to appreciate her and to like her. She doesn't have that outlet of someone who appreciates her for who she is until Aiden. And so in this book, it actually starts out with them being friends for 7 years, but they've never met. They have been playing video games online for 7 years. So they know each other by different names, and they're both nervous to show who they really are in real life. They don't even know what city they live in or how old they are or what jobs they do. All they know is their online screen names. And despite not knowing all these details, they're still the best of friends. But Aiden is the only person she can truly be herself around, even though she's holding back. And he's holding back too. He's scared she wants a celebrity, and she's scared of someone just wanting her for her money and not for who she is. So it's similar in that way. They're both in similar positions, and they're very unable to trust. But they do trust each other implicitly, even though there's so much that they're holding back.
Okay, so let's dive in and talk about Ceci because from what you just said, I have a lot to unpack. So the first thing, I did not realize the age of our FMC, and I love this. Why did you choose to write a character who is 43 and at this stage in her life and at a stage of success and accomplishment, but then also Mm, maybe in a pattern of how she deals with the world as well, given her age and what's worked with her so far. So why that choice?
Before I knew who Ceci was, I knew she was in her 40s. So back in the very first book in the series, I knew, and she appeared there, I knew she'd be in her 40s compared to the other female characters who are in their 20s and 30s. She balances out and rounds out the group. But I knew going into it that I wanted a slight reverse age gap. He's 31, she's 43. I wanted that play on their different ages, but also she's incredibly, like, emotionally stunted. She went to MIT, founded her company, and basically worked for 20 years. And all she's done is work, and all she knows is work. It kind of left her behind in some of those interpersonal relationships. She got divorced because she couldn't be the constant housewife that her husband expected her to be because she was a workaholic and she put her company before her marriage. So she made that mistake and she's not going to make it again if she has the opportunity. But she's never let anyone get close because work has been her comfort. Work has been her romantic partner in a way. That's what has consumed her life. And so she's almost paralyzed as much as he is. They're both emotionally stunted when it comes to interpersonal relationships. She has tons of friends. She has very strong friendships, but they're still transactional, even though she doesn't want them to be. And she's trying her best, but sometimes your best isn't good enough and you have to pivot and try something else.
So I'm really loving what you shared with me about this book so far. And I do appreciate that you're touching on the dynamic that they have where they've shared so much
Mhm.
under the mask of anonymity almost, right? They probably have
Okay.
screen names. And then I'm wondering, what does that allow to rise up in a relationship when all of the almost buckets we fit into to get through the day are removed? And it's just really our core, our soul, our thoughts, our feelings coming through to one another. Because it's an interesting dynamic to write about. So what came up for you in that 7 years that they only knew each other that way?
So they started out gaming with other people. It started as a fantasy baseball league, and they had just like a gaming group that fell away as other players fell out, and then it was just them, and they're the last men standing, and they're able to share parts of their lives in a way that they can't with the other people in their real life. It's a glimpse into who they are behind the curtain because they do have that protection of anonymity. And even once they interact and they reveal who they are in person, they still refer to to each other as their online names in certain moments because that deeper connection supersedes the in-person connection. There is a pivotal moment where he groans out her name, but he groans out her screen name because to him, that's who she is. It is his best friend who he has spent 7 years with, not this beautiful woman who he met through all these different mechanisms in the story. But their connection is deeper than just service level. They have that emotional connection that runs 7 years deep. It's not let's have a fling and forget about each other. It's I have spent 7 years knowing almost everything about you. I know the way you think. I know the way you are when you're hurt. I know what you do for self-care. I know that you don't take care of yourself. And sometimes they stayed up till 4 o'clock in the morning playing games and talking. He knows when she has insomnia. She knows when he gets overstimulated and overwhelmed. Without putting a name to what it is, she's able to sense that and to help him get through it. But because they have such a deep emotional connection, it almost overrides the interpersonal connection that they have in real life.
Oh, I can't wait to read this. I'm so like genuinely excited. And I kind of love that there have been moments of surprise for me on this. So I definitely don't have a copy yet, but you and I had spoken about it and I was really excited. But just as I'm hearing about it, I feel really pulled to their story. And there's, another element that stands out. And I kind of want to drop in deep about this with you because I feel like it's almost stigmatized. It's almost that feeling of disconnection or reaching a goal and not feeling joy, not feeling
Mhm,
fulfilled. And to anyone listening, perhaps you have not experienced that and like you at some point you feel it. At some
mhm,
point, it's inevitable. We feel it about something. It could be your professional life, your love life, parenthood, something. And when you're in it, sometimes it can feel like you're failing. Like everyone else could feel joy about this. There's something wrong with you. You have to put that 1,000-pound mask on and just act as if, act like you enjoy it. And then that disconnection can grow even further. There have been moments in my life I've had major accomplishments and I've just felt nothing. And I love that you're highlighting that in this book and also kind of giving the opportunity to the reader to go on that exploration and say, okay, so what is behind that? What's going on there? It's not a character flaw. We don't have to virtue test ourselves, but it is information that we're a
Mhm.
little disconnected from something. So, can you give us a little insight into why our main character is at that juncture in their life and how it plays into the story?
Ceci's whole life has always been about work. She worked incredibly hard to get into college. She worked hard to set up her company. She was a workaholic and she found comfort in work. And then she sold her company for billions of dollars. And when she did that, she was untethered and she didn't have that guiding light telling her what she should work on and where she should be going next. She tried a couple of different projects and none of them panned out. She finds joy in helping her friends. So she pulled some strings and helps Bex create this program, this project to make a better sensor in the helmet to treat concussions. But her joy is in connecting others and not necessarily in the project itself. So she's still feeling untethered. She's still feeling unfulfilled. And she's searching for this fulfillment in a way that it doesn't come easily. It's something that she really struggles with. There's no easy solution. There's no quick fix. It's something she has to work on and struggle with. And everyone has that. They might have motivation, but they don't have a goal. Where they might have a goal and they have no motivation. You need to have both a goal and motivation in order to accomplish it. And part of this is a symptom of her ADHD. This is how it manifests. That doesn't mean she's broken, but it does mean she has to find a way to still have what to her would be considered a successful life. For her, success means continuing to work. What she works on, we're not sure, but she needs to have that outside source of validation and that outside source of this is why I get up in the morning. And she's searching for that.
You use the word joy. And so I want to touch on that for a moment, right? Because I
Mhm.
think sometimes that is not factored into the equation when we're making decisions. And whether we've been programmed that way or we've, sort of reaped the benefits of suppressing that, I want to highlight it for a moment and check in with you. Where has joy led you in your life when you followed it and cultivated it and nurtured it? Has it brought you somewhere mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, professionally?
Joy brought me writing, and writing brought me joy. I've been writing for years. When I was 14, I wrote some really crappy poetry. Through college, I wrote some really bad novellas. I finished my first book in 2017. It was a 220,000 word young adult novel, new adult novel. It will never see the light of day. It is that bad. But it is what got me past that hump of unfinished projects into finished projects. And since then, I've been able to complete a dozen books that never saw the light of day, and then 18, 19 more that have been published. I think Instigator is number 19, maybe 18. I don't remember. I'm losing track. I'm bad at math. But I credit that first book for getting me over the hump. And I wrote for the joy of it. I wrote because I had characters in my head I couldn't get out. And my first book that I published, I never intended to publish it. I was peer pressured into publishing it, and I'm so glad I did. And every time I release a book, it's joy. It's pure unbridled joy. The thing that brings me the most joy is connecting my friends and networking, which everyone's like, ew, gross, networking. I love being able to say, hey, this friend does this friend does that. Let's get them together and make something beautiful. Working with other people, connecting them to other people who will help everyone succeed, that brings me joy. Connecting with other authors, other readers, other people in the bookish space, that brings me joy. Knowing, hey, this is something that would benefit you. It doesn't have to benefit me, but it will benefit a friend of mine. I will recommend them. I'll connect them, whatever needs to be done. I know a rising tide lifts all boats. We all succeed together. This is not a competition. So being able to connect friends and colleagues, being able to help all of us succeed brings me joy and helps me succeed personally.
Well, what would you say to that person who's listening and feels like they have to stifle or hide their joy? Like there's some natural aversion to it. Because sometimes what brings us joy, it's not useful for other people. It's really useful for us. And we may not realize like we're a resource for other people, or they depend on us, or they only see us one way. So I think we're having this very elegant conversation about joy and about why it's important and like the direction it can bring you in your own life or in the world. But would you say something to that person who feels blocked from it right now or feels like they need to run away from it?
Therapy helps. I'm a big proponent of therapy. I do not know a single person on this planet who is not in need of therapy. If you are feeling blocked, if you are feeling disconnected, reach out to someone who can help you unpack that. It is beyond my personal skills. It is something that I had to outsource to a therapist in order to fully process it. But because I did, I'm able to experience that joy. I'm able to lead a more fulfilled life, knowing I have the skills that therapy taught me. I don't know a single person on this planet who doesn't need a little bit of therapy.
Or a whole lot of it. So,
Yes.
well, I love learning about your characters in this conversation. And I want to touch on one thing because you're mentioning that your main female character has ADHD. And the reason I want to talk about it is because I feel like very often there's like myths, misunderstanding, stigma around this, whether it's that people age out of it or it's something just like young boys deal with. I mean, I hear everything at work. I work in medical media, so I hear every incorrect piece of information possible. And I really want to check in with you about why you're writing a character at this age navigating ADHD.
I didn't know until maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but perimenopause makes ADHD symptoms worse. It makes it even more debilitating than it already is. So there are plenty of ways to treat ADHD without medication. I'm medicated for mine. So I will be the first to say, like, find better living through chemistry. But just because you find a medication that works for you for a little while doesn't mean it's going to work forever. And perimenopause throws everything into a tailspin. Everything is different. And there's a lot people don't know because most of the studies about ADHD are done on young boys. They're not done on women. They're not done on teenage girls where you're going through puberty and have massive hormonal changes there. They're not, there's no research about ADHD in women. There's very few studies about it. And bringing to light that it doesn't end. It's not something that, oh, you can take a pill and it goes away. It's still something you struggle with, or at least I struggle with. There's no magical cure. You can't be healed. You can cope. You can find ways to treat it and to find your new normal and find a way to push through and to succeed. But it doesn't have to limit you, even when it is debilitating.
Okay, we've touched on some big themes in this book, but at its heart, there's a romance going on here.
Yeah.
And there is this beautiful story. So I want to highlight that for a moment. And my question is, what is the feeling you want someone to have when they close this romance? Like, what feeling will they be left with when they think about this relationship in particular?
Ooh, that's a good one. I want them to feel content and satisfied. I want them to be emotionally fulfilled. I want them to want to buy the next book. And I want them to know that who they are and what they do is seen and appreciated. It's a lot about revealing parts of yourself that you keep hidden from even the people who know you best. Why do you hide away parts of yourself? How can you overcome that friction and be vulnerable with someone who you trust explicitly but still can't fully be vulnerable with? Knowing this is a safe place, this is a safe space. Knowing when someone can be trusted and being open about when you are simply unable to trust. There is a moment where Aiden has a panic attack off page and then ghosts her for a couple of days, and he breaks her trust. And it's not something that's easy for him to get back, to earn it back. But he is being vulnerable and sharing that, yes, he had a panic attack. And it was something that could be overcome, but was not. It was something that completely debilitated him in that moment. And when you have that kind of vulnerability, she can forgive him, but she can't forget. And it does take a while to earn her trust back and to prove that that one instance is not who he is. It was who he was, but not who he will be.
Oh, it sounds like they have such an interesting relationship. And again, like I use the word mature in a really good way, in a way of like, I don't love reading books and being completely frustrated with the characters and like, oh my God, like I don't love that. And so I do love reading books where you're really getting something out of it and you're feeling like they're growing and they're almost like confronting the parts of themselves that do need that opportunity to develop and evolve. And it just sounds like they have a beautiful relationship. And I'm really, really excited to read this one. Another thing I saw, I feel like you posted this on social media or somewhere. I read it and you said this might be your spiciest book to date.
Yes.
Tell me
Yes,
about
it
that.
is.
How did that end up being your spiciest book to date?
There are multiple scenes with toys. There are solo toy use and then joint toy use. She finds his toy box. It is the same number of scenes as usual, but the spice level is amped up. And I- when my editor read it, she left me some comments like, "Yeah, this is the spiciest book." And I thought the last book was the spiciest book I'd written, and this one tops that.
They called for it. They needed it.
Yeah,
They're
they needed it.
talking to you. They're telling you. So
Yeah,
we're gonna trust them. They're adults and they know what they
yeah,
need. So well, Allie, another thing that I've been picking up on your social media is that you have a huge year ahead.
yeah.
So I just want to give you the floor. And what does 2026 look like for you?
2026 is very busy for me, and I couldn't be happier. So we recently had the release of Game Misconduct in March. We have 3 more books this year. We have Instigator coming out in August, and then we have 2 more to round out the rest of the series. In 2027, there will be a new series. I'm not exactly sharing details about that yet, but we will be finishing the Boston Grizzlies in December, and so there is a book in August, in September, and then December. And in the midst of all of that, I am doing a bunch of conventions and fairs and book events all throughout the country, mainly here in the Carolinas, but also throughout the country. And I'm keeping busy and I'm absolutely loving it. Like Ssie, I'm a workaholic. So I find joy in work.
I get that completely. I'm pretty busy myself. But you had a wild number that you shared before we hit record. What was it, like 42 events or something like that on top of everything else?
My current calendar has 42 events for the year, and I'm still booking events. So it could very easily be over 50 events this year. Some weekends I have two. This current week where we're talking, I had two events last weekend. I have an event tomorrow, and then I have two events this weekend. So that is five events in like a 10-day span. That is very abnormal, but there are some weekends where I have two events in a row. I live in Greenville, South Carolina, and I'm in markets and fairs and all sorts of things around town. I travel within a couple hours to different cities around me. I was just in Atlanta. I'm going to be in Charlotte. I'm going to be in Charleston. So I'm doing events all over. I'm meeting readers and connecting with people, and it is so much fun.
I love it. And I'm smiling because I was thinking about our last conversation, and you had mentioned something about how to take care of yourself through things like that. And I just find it so admirable that you just have such a packed schedule. And at the same time, you're writing all of these books. It's not like you get to do
It-
one or the other, it's happening in sync. So it's incredible from the outside looking in. I can't imagine what it's like for you dealing with all of this.
I write my best on planes.
There you go.
Um, so I try to time where I'm at in a book with a flight. It doesn't always happen, but I do write really good smut on planes. So whenever I can try to have a travel day near when I'm on a deadline, it really helps me out. But mainly, I love connecting with readers in real life. So much of what we do is behind a screen. It's great to be out in person and connecting face to face. There is a reader who I met at an event. Oh, it was last February, I think. So over a year ago. And now she's such a close friend. And we've formed a bond beyond just the books. We've formed a true friendship. And we met through the bookish space. We met at an event. And it's so much fun.
Oh, I really feel that when you say that, and I can just kind of get the sense of what it's probably like at these events and how wonderful it is to connect with you. I've loved doing the podcast episodes with you and checking in and kind of seeing where you are in your process. So, for anyone listening, kind of just give us the details about the next book, where to find it, and when it's coming out. So we make sure we have it, and I will make sure to put your information in the show notes.
Instigator will be coming out August 14th. The next book, One Timer, will be out in September. And then Delay of Game will be coming in December. And that will finish off the Boston Grizzlies Hockey Club series.
I'm so thrilled for you, and I'm really glad we got to have this conversation today, Allie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I had so much fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Love Letters and Books, a podcast for anyone who loves a good story. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to follow, rate, and review this podcast on your favorite listening platform. You can find me on both Instagram and TikTok at Love Letters and Books. And if you're interested in being a guest on Love Letters and Books, suggesting your favorite author, or just want to write in an original love letter to yourself or someone else to be read on air, please send me an email at lovelettersandbookspodcast@gmail.com.